Yeah, this is Rick Rock with the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm joined here with Janine Vazzaro Hupfer, based in Connecticut, one of my top producing loan officers in the state of Connecticut that I wanted to highlight. So, Janine, just to give you sort of a framework of sort of the podcast. So, effectively, what I'm doing is I'm outlining and highlighting the top producing LOs in 52 states. So, 50 states and 2 territories across the next 52 weeks. Just highlighting best practices and just connecting with loan officers on the ground, right, in different states. And someone I actually have to introduce you to. I interviewed, an incredible producer in the state of Maine, and she, her name was Skylar Welch Skylar Welch. She was just incredible. She was in the state of in Maine, and I went to Jason Jean in Massachusetts. And you are actually episode number 3 for the state of Connecticut. So you are Miss Connecticut for the next 35, 40 minutes.
Always wanted to be Miss Connecticut.
No, but welcome to the show. I really appreciate you accepting the invitation.
Sure. I don't normally accept these types of invitations.
Well, I could tell, right? And what was your first? What I told you, and I think this is actually pretty illustrative of a few things, but. What was your first reaction when I said I wanted to interview a top producer in the state of Connecticut, and I wanted it to be you? What did you say?
I had an interesting thought, like, why me? I mean, I just am your average loan officer, and I'm not doing anything, in my opinion, abnormally strategic, like 4 a.m. ice baths or lunch workouts and peptide injections. So I figured I didn't fit the mold of someone you'd normally interview.
In here's just to frame this for the audience and people who watch this. The reality is, Janine is a 32, 33, 34 million a year producer, always working on getting better and always working on improving. But at 32, 33, 34 million a year, that puts Janine in the top 50. There's 5,000 LOs. I think it was 52. In fact, let me, I will show this right now. In the state of Connecticut, right, there are 5,000 LOs. There's 5,400 loan officers. And Janine, you're number 50, right? So you're in the top 50. This is Janine right here, right? You can see my screen, right, Janine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you're in the top 50 out of 5,000 LOs. Right?
Wow.
And I mean, it's incredible, right? So then when you click on you, can you see your profile right now, Janine?
I can, yeah.
So the last, you're in that 33 million or so, that 32, 33, 34 million dollar, sort of range as a producer, and that was and the reality is, I think a lot of loan officers like you don't get your voices heard, but number 2, you don't realize how strong of a producer you really are, right? And I think we looked at this yesterday, where what were you, number 8 as far as the 8th highest producing female loan officer in the state of Connecticut?
8 or 10, yeah.
And this is in the non-depository environment. So this is, environments where we're working with realtors, working with builders, trying to do the best we can to earn the business, not have those leads handed to us, but earn the business. And so I segmented out the depositories, and of the 5,400, non-depository, or 58. Oh, Connecticut. 58. Oh, actually, the last 14 months, it was 5,800 LOs. So there's probably some attrition there in the number of LOs in the last in the 2-month delta. So in the last 14 months, there's 5,800 LOs, and you're number 50, right? Which I find just to be extraordinarily strong as a producer. So with that in mind, do you feel that you belong? Do you feel amidst the top producers?
And I mentioned that this is with a company change 18 months ago. So I had to somewhat rebuild. I didn't get to have a full database of, 5,000 closed loans, and build the team and get used to new, equipment and software and such. So that is, for me, that was an eye-opening stat.
I mean, I think it's incredible. Do you think it matters? Do you think it matters to a realtor that they're dealing with a top producing LO?
I would hope it would. I often have said, especially when I see some of the newer loan officers who are, um, all the frills, doing their podcasts and such. And I'm like, I have 25 years of making mistakes and learning daily. And like they maybe have 3 years. Uh, it's such a difficult business. And without the experience, I don't know how people maintain their strong name and reputation, which is kind of everything I've built my business on.
No, that's incredible. I mean, I agree with you. I think what I would love for you is that when you meet realtors for the first time and somebody says, tell me about you, outside of being, a wife and mother and just being, a strong professional in the business for a long time. But I'd love for you to say that, look, I'm very proud of the fact that I'm in the top 50 in the state for non-depository people who really focus on mortgage lending. I'm in the top 50 out of 5,000, out of 5,400 loan officers. I'm in the top 50. And I'm proud to say that I'm one of the top 10 female producers in the state of Connecticut. Right. And because I think there's one thing, there's a difference between bragging and just honoring. And I think when you highlight things that you've worked really hard, like you said, you've worked hard for your name and you've worked hard for your reputation. I think that there's nothing wrong with honoring the fact that this is the result of you building those two key components of who you are up.
Absolutely. And great. I love it. I definitely will highlight that. I tend to be humble and not, build myself up too much, but I like to perform in a way that's impressive and gives people that trust to say,
Yeah.
wow, she did a great job. I want to use her again.
Do you know what is it that makes you in that top 50, would you say? Like if you were to look at Janine from the outside in and say like, okay, this is what this person does. This is what this woman does to earn the business that she has and to get to the level that you're presently at. Like what are those qualities about you, do you think?
My career started years ago and I transitioned into an account executive role. And I built a name on accuracy. So people knew to go to Janine because she will get the deal done. And that has carried over to retail, where I'm the cleaner upper, deals falling apart, call Janine. Because they know when I say I can do something that I will do it. I don't take no for an answer. I don't stop working. I don't ever give up until that deal is solid and gets to closing. So that has been, I think it's taken a long time, a slow incremental process of building trust with people. And it's allowed me to get more referrals. List agents are thrilled with the service and they come back. So it takes time, but I'm happy that's how my name is out there as someone who's accurate.
What year was it that you entered the business?
99.
In 99. Oh, wow. Okay.
I was 3.
Yeah. I was going to say, boy, in 8th grade, they had no licensing requirements, so it makes sense. But no, so in 99, you entered the business, and then as an AE, and then
no, as a retail loan officer, learning, training.
Okay, so you were retail LO, and then you transitioned as an AE for a wholesaler.
Yep.
And then at what point did you go back into origination? What year?
Well, the market fell apart and wholesale jobs became obsolete for the most part. And I, like a lot of us at the time, was sort of looking to get out of the business altogether. And I had a close friend say to me, why leave? This is what you know. This is what you do. This is what you do well. Hang in there. It will come back. It'll come back around. And from 2007 to 2010, it was difficult. Found myself managing a small shop, and eventually went back full time to retail in 2012.
Yeah. So 2012. And what lender was that with?
I was with Ascend Financial, a broker shop in Connecticut.
Oh, interesting. And when did you make the move from broker to banker? What lender was that?
It's a pretty great story, but I met Jay Tolosano. A lot of people know him. He's a top producer in Connecticut. I ran into him at a mortgage show in 2014, and he hired me as sort of his junior. And then I was also originating my own business. But I learned from the best. I mean, I've always had great mentors. He was the best. I eventually went to Prime Lending and worked with the best team over there.
Oh, yeah.
So I've stayed in this space since then.
Was it? We had a friend in common. Was it Jen McGinnis, or what was her name? Or
Kelly McGinnis?
I thought it was. I think it was a brother and sister. I think they were.
Yeah. So they were at Prime, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember her first name, but
Kelly.
I think the last.
Kelly and Gerard.
Kelly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. God, I was really close to them for a while, and then I kind of fell out of touch with them. Are they still in the business?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, because they were ones that I knew them back in 07, 08. And then they when they made it on the other side of the crash, it's like anyone who made it through the aftermath of the crash, you tend to have that unique bond with, right? And so we kept in touch with each other for a little bit. But I remember visiting with you back then, but I don't think you were working with them. I think you were
Scholastic. That's when I took Scholastic from broker to banker.
Yeah.
In 2008.
That's right. No, that's fascinating. So, like, at what point did you feel in your own career you went from? I mean, what I love about your career was very incremental, right? You were trained as a retail LO, then you became an AE, then you became a junior LOA, if you will,
right?
And then you became your own LO.
And I became a team LO, and then I went on my own.
And so, how did you break free from that? Because sometimes people get locked into that because people typically, if you're running a team like that, the team leader doesn't want you to break away.
Right. So right? That's a great question. And that was a hard, there's been a lot of monumental places in my career. And one of them was fully breaking away from a team environment.
Yeah.
And the security of team leads, and also doing my own, to be going completely on my own. And I do have to say that over the 4.5 years that I was with Prime, I mean, they were the best of the best team. And we had the greatest people in the office, working nonstop to, do what we do. But it went from, just slowly building my business to building relationships, going out on the road, having great success with 1 or 2 agents, and then that building to, by the time I did in fact resign, they weren't actually surprised. I said, listen, I was working 80% on your business in the beginning. Now I'm working on 80% my own business. So it's not fair for me to take a piece of the pie. It's time for me. And they said, well, you spread your wings and fly, or, you're all grown up.
That's incredible. So that must have been, production wise and income wise, that must have been a pretty good jump. for you. And then once you began realizing the kind of production momentum and the financial momentum that you can generate for yourself, that's when you started really leaning into it.
I left to go on my own because if I stayed, I would be into everybody's territory. So there was no real option for me to stay and go on my own. I went to another large company. And what's interesting is it was about a year about a year and a half before COVID.
Uh-huh.
So I got to really get a lot of get my strategy down, right?
Yeah.
And then boom, refi boom, working, bell to bell, just craziness. And again, that added to the training, that incremental, like learning the business inside and out, upside down, At one point, processing my own loans, LOAing my own loans. And that's just knowledge that you can never replace.
And what was your production growth? What did that look like?
So from the team setting to.
Yeah. Like, did you start off doing, like 5-6 million a year, then 8 million a year and 12 million, or did you just take right off?
So I think the numbers that stick out in my head is like my last 2 years at Prime, I was closing like 178 loans a year. That was team leads and my own. So that's a lot of business.
That is a lot.
In 16, 17. And that was like 33 mil if I had to guess. And maybe, 20 of that was mine. So, I was starting off in that 24 mil range, 20 to 24 mil, but went up and hit almost 50 mil on my best year.
That's incredible. And your best year was COVID? Was it like 2021?
I think everybody had their best year in 2021.
No. And that's not a knock at all. I mean, God bless for having you in a position to do that. I mean, that's phenomenal. I think that, I think it's a testimony. Well, plus, your number of units have gone down, but your dollar volume has largely been consistent because you've been even going through, I don't know if I were to share my screen again here. What's interesting about your production is like, if I go to 2023, it's like 25, 26 million. It was a down year for everybody.
Sure.
2024 was largely flat, about 25, 26 million. 2025, you're at about 25, 26 million. And then of course you're up in production over the last 12, 13 months or so. You're at 33.5 million in production. So it seems like you're sort of getting your groove back.
Well, again, with the company change in there, losing 2 months. And then I was monitoring it because I'm very hard on myself, but a lot of people dropped 30% a year.
Yep.
After COVID, and I did not. I was very
you were consistent.
And I'm always heavy purchase. So when the refis go away, it's still heavy purchase,
Yeah. No, I think your consistency is exceptional. And I think that whenever I see somebody that's very consistent like that, just as a leader, to me, it's always a systems problem. Like you could fit more, you could put more logs in the fire, but the fireplace is only so big. And so you need to have a larger fireplace to be able to add more files into the system. So you need a better environment that's conducive to just putting in more loans rather than feeling punished with more business. You feel as though that, because it's hard, Skylar in Maine, talked about mom guilt and how it was just really hard being a mom and working all the time, having, the phone calls and trying to draw boundaries between your realtors, your business partners, and your children. And it's funny because men don't talk about that. Right. And they should, quite honestly, like men really should, around it. But I found it refreshingly honest when she did. And I know you've struggled with, with growth by way of the systems around you, and we've been working on that to provide you with better like operating support and LOA support and a better processor in place, and to really sort of put the core fundamentals in place. That way you could start to trust the system a little bit, step away to drive more business kind of through. There's still some work to be done, but I see you as the next 50 million a year producer pretty easily. It just can be a matter. It's not about you. I think it's got the systems around you to support you.
Well, I've come to this conclusion probably a long time ago, but it's really hit me recently. It's such an important time. If I don't plug the right, in order to get over that hump to the next level, I need to plug the people in.
Yeah.
And so at NFM, we've worked out, I have great support right now. Yeah. We're hitting our max, right? So I need to plug in my LP1, my admin, and build that way, because I only have so many hours in the day.
Yeah. I mean, people, Greg, you remember Greg Frost when he had his perfect loan process and so on. Part of how when he became the first $1 billion originator, he got to a point where, and you're not far from this, where you become kind of the ambassador to the relationship. You become kind of the mayor of your own pipeline. So you start touching your referral sources and the consumers within it, just as almost like, hey, like I'm just checking in on you. You're like the manager of your bed and breakfast, if you will. You're not taking the orders. You're not processing people in and out. You're not carrying pillows or changing all the beds or whatever. But you're there just to make sure everyone feels that the process is tight, that people feel at home, that they feel educated, that they feel taken care of. And when things go wrong, that you address those things quickly. It's hard to do that if you're making the beds and you're taking the registration in and out and so on and so forth.
That's also a slow process of learning to let go. I think there's a lot of us in this industry who are technicians and inclined to want to control and see through. This is my name, my reputation. It needs to go a certain way. And the only way it goes that way is if I'm involved, right? So now how do you take your hands off of that and go do a whole new industry, essentially go do sales? Because I'm not really doing a lot of sales. I'm talking to people, but they're already sold at that point, right? I mean, very little sales involved. It's, for me, that's just, they get to know me and they get to see my professionalism and my desire to help them and the time I give them, and they're sold on that. But now I have to be away from the office, be away from the clients, and let's trust the team to do the rest.
Yeah.
It's a big step.
What would you say, I'm actually kind of curious about this. What would you say your personality type is? Have you ever looked at this in Redder? These personality assessment traits and key traits?
Not in Redder, but over the years, yeah.
So Redder says, look at all this. Redder says you're dominant, you're influential, you're steady. But for some reason, this is of no surprise. It says of all the characteristics, you're least of which you're open. You're not open. Like look at this. You're like.
What does that mean?
It means you're very agreeable is your highest trait. You're neurotic and you're conscientious, but you lack openness effectively. I'm not really sure what it means per se.
Openness to let other people help me.
You're friendly and you're thoughtful in your approach. There's always optimistic. I actually love that. So if I were a cold caller calling you, a general tip is to be polite, have a formal approach, be slow down a little bit, especially if you're fast usually. God, I should read this every time we have a meeting.
Right.
I need to keep my tone calm and soothing. If you're giving a stranger advice, use of social proof, mistakes to avoid, strong words, overconfidence, and informal language. That's where I have failed with you.
That's so funny.
Making the ask, formally respectful, request their time. They find it quite hard to say no.
Yes,
Your
true.
subconscious driver, they are change averse by default. Hence, a fear of missing out laden pitch can jolt them into action.
Yep.
Now, this is fascinating. I actually haven't looked at this email tips, message tips. Yeah, look at that. Buyer personality. They usually consult others before making any big decisions. They're good listeners and appreciate relationships. They're friendly and polite, and then try to ensure that others are at comfort. Does that not describe you or what?
It does. It does. Yeah.
That is fascinating, though. I've actually hadn't looked at this disc analysis. Okay, here it is. It's already example driven, fair minded, and appreciative.
Ooh, okay.
Pretty.
Yes.
That is fascinating. No,
Love it.
so well, I was curious about that because not everybody, top producers. I think you exhibit. I think part of what I'll do is I will analyze the disc profile of all the top producers because I bet you, your qualities aren't all that dissimilar to other top producers of being assertive and what was the other ones here? It was assertive. I love this: dominant, influential, and steady. Were your top three in the actual disc analysis?
It's interesting.
Dominant, influential, and steadiness. I think that's fantastic. Do you look at yourself as dominant, influential, and steady? I personally don't see you as dominant. I see you as influential and steady. But maybe you're in a very soft kind of way. You're very dominant, which is why realtors love to deal with you because I think you're in control.
I'm sure. Let's put it that. I'm sure-footed. Yeah. I'm not. I used to be maybe more timid and like nervous.
Yeah.
But now it's full steam ahead. This is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. And if we can't do it this way, I don't know that I'm the right fit for you.
Yeah. No, and I think sometimes, even though you said that in the most docile kind of way, it's very clear. It's like maybe we aren't a fit together, and I think that's a very dominant thing to say. I don't think people have to yell and scream to be dominant,
right?
And I think that you exhibit that, and I think that's pretty clear. I think with your referral partners who have stayed with you for years, that's a pretty steady. How hard is it to balance historic relationships? Because I can see that as being really easy to rest upon. Everyone can rest on their laurels, or you can kind of rest on the relationships they have.
You can get stuck there too.
The one thing that Jason Jean mentioned was he I think it was one day a week. I think it was like Tuesdays. He's got like one day a week where he makes a very conscientious effort to touch realtors.
Mm-hmm.
Like top producing realtors that he would like to get to know, he'd like to do business with, but doesn't. Yeah,
that's a common coaching tactic, I guess. I am not great with keeping on a very regimented schedule of, hey, and this time we're doing this and we're calling these people. But I'm very conscientious of my transactions. So whoever I'm touching in those transactions is going to have the best experience. The buyer's agent, the listing agent, the paralegal, the attorney. So where do I get my referrals from? The attorneys, the paralegals, the list agents often connect and want to do business. So that's been a little better approach for me personally than the hard sales call, like, hey, let's get coffee,
Yeah. I agree with you. I think sometimes there was another loan officer that I'm thinking about in California that works for NFM, and she is super quiet, super not pushy at all. And where she has struggled in the past is she's had really pushy managers who didn't respect kind of her personality type. And I think to your point, you don't have to be loud and obnoxious to be dominant and to be direct.
Sure.
Yeah. What would you say to be I mean, you and I are roughly the same age, right? You're 38 and I'm 40.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you and I grew up in the business largely in the same cohort, right? We were like 80s, early 90s kids. We kind of grew up,
We had fax machines.
Yeah, and how hard is it, do you think? Like Skylar in Maine doesn't use a CRM, right? She like technology for her. She was very adverse to technology, and I think she uses spreadsheets and that sort of thing. But she simply doesn't really. She's sort of technology phobic. She'd much rather do this with people, be on the phone with them, or talk to them, or meet with them in the community, than send happy birthday cards and setting up all these automations. You know what I mean?
Well, one is I've always done the most I can to incorporate new technology or new ways, new systems into, because I don't want to grow to a place where I'm stagnant and I can only do X, Y, and Z, and I have to depend on other people to do the other stuff. But also I've learned to delegate much better. So we have a great marketing department. I've been able to set up some marketing with them. I can do every aspect of the loan process, but I make sure I stay out of the loan approvals. I stay out of the disclosures and the easy stuff, the upfront stuff, because you can get caught up in it. I suppose if I didn't have the knowledge, I'd have a lot more time to do more green time.
What do you think the most important thing in being a strong, consistent producing loan officer is? Is it the outreach? Is it the availability? Is it, some loan officers will say, I'm available 24/7, right? And other loan officers will say, don't do that because then you're too available to agents and you need to be a bit more structured and protective of your time. Like, what would you say to be some of the key ingredients for a top producer?
When you asked me to do this is where I struggle because I'm different than most, and not necessarily in a good or bad way, but
look, your difference is why you're on the show. Cause I think you're exceptional at what you do. And that's why I want to hear what you have to say.
A few things I can answer that with. My goal has always been 5-star reviews, right? So I am very cognizant of what is the review going to be. And that's just as a guide, not as a legitimate worry of mine. So how do we make this a 5-star experience from beginning to end? So that's one thing. I try to maintain a professional appearance and, attitude and, when you schedule calls, you make them, official and send the invite out. And if you read the reviews that I've gotten recently and over the years, you'll get paragraphs of, she was amazing. She was there for me. Never felt like she abandoned me. Always answered her phone, always answered my questions. I never felt in the dark. And that, where does that come from? It's time. I've sacrificed 12-hour days most of my career to be available to people. And that's what I've chosen to do, right?
Yeah.
I don't think everyone chooses that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, well, the personality assessment, reading it, I mean, your conscientiousness reflects the degree of self-discipline, focus on doing things in a planned manner, acting dutifully, scoring higher, usually efficient, organized, and focused, whereas those scoring low tend to be easygoing, spontaneous, and unreliable. I mean, you being the word dutiful, I think is like a perfect adjective for you, right? Because people trust in that sense of duty that you have to the consumer and the realtor, right?
That's the trust component. That's where the building of the trust comes in, because they know I'm going to perform for them, for their client, and for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and the question is, how do you package that to realtors that don't know who you are?
You
right?
don't. you crush one loan with them. You wow the crap out of them, and you don't even have to try. If you're doing that already, you don't even have to try to wow them. It happens. And fortunately, my team is a wow too now, so that helps. And so they just have this phenomenal experience that they weren't maybe getting with the last lender they worked with, or they don't recall having with their last house. And that joy is everything. It spreads to the agent and everyone and their family members. And I'm getting calls right after closing. You got to talk to my buddy. He's right here. He wants to buy a house. I told him, you're the only one he's working with.
Well, good. Well, I mean, good. That's the power of the referral, saying like, don't waste your time with anyone else. You know, you got to work with my friend,
Right.
and she did my loan and she was excellent, or whatever the case may be, you know?
I'd say I think I have a higher percentage of past client referrals than probably a lot of people.
Past referrals, got it.
So normally it's like realtors, past clients, but I think I'm more like past client realtor equal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, there's no question. I mean, when we went to that, the Hartford publication for top agents for the county, what was the publication name again? I apologize.
Real Producer.
Yeah. Real Producer. That was excellent. That was such an excellent testimony of your relationships and then the opportunity to network and interface with other top producers. I've gotten 2 text messages actually from that one top producer, that we met while there, and she sent me the information to, I think, one of her other agents for you to reach out to her, right? So you know, I think that what's hard about growth is it's so incremental. Like everyone wants instantaneous growth where you just blow up overnight. I don't know if that's sustainable. I think some people do that, but I just don't. That, you know, I always respect those, and you hit the nail on the head. You know, you come out of COVID and you're steady, right? And you steady and you start to build. Where some people come out of COVID and they crash and they're not able to climb out of it until the next refi boom, or or if the market just sort of helps them. I think that says a lot about you.
I think that was a hard lesson for me. You know, I've been through a lot personally throughout my career that could have had the opposite effect. But it's really made me resilient. And I would look at where I am and I'd say, why am I here? Why am I a team loan? Why am I, you know, not recognized on the top such and such? Like every period of time I would assess myself. I was like, I should be doing better. I should be doing more. But then I would look back and say, look at what you learned. Like I had some of the best mentors and people around me. And, you know, going from not being able to stomach looking at a tax return to like flipping through in 3 minutes and knowing what the income calc is. So, you know, these are things that take time, and
it takes time to learn that.
It takes time to just to make your craft. What do you call it? When your craft, when you perfect your craft, right? That doesn't happen overnight. And I've always been like, when is it going to be my time? You know, and we had this talk. You're like, it's your time. I'm like, oh. Took a long time, but I'm here.
You know, but now you actually have the experience, the maturity, the focus to actually sustain. Now that it's your time, to sustain it and to embrace it and to lean into it. You know, I think sometimes it happens to people maybe too early in their career, and then it doesn't really become sustainable. You know,
true.
Do you work much with builders?
No,
as just sort of an area, as one area of growth. You really don't. That's right. That's interesting. I mean, so what's great about whenever I look at, you know, a loan officer's production, I always look at to see areas where they can grow, right? And you already have a tremendous, your bench of realtors. I mean, you have 67 top buyer agents, and another, you know, gosh, too many I can even count, probably almost 80 or 90 Oh, that's transaction. So yeah, there's 67 agents that are listed on Redder, and it's amazing because that tells me that you're trusted by a lot of different people, whereas you're not getting all your business from one. You're not hitting
Yeah.
the wagon to one real estate.
I always wondered what was better with that, but I will say that when the market after COVID, realtors were dropping off like flies, I didn't have the decline because the onesie twosies dropped off and my threesy foursies just did less transactions. So
Yeah,
I was spread all over the state and able to get business from a lot more people, like have a bigger footprint.
yeah. No, I think having a wide array of options, of realtor
And
options,
markets.
you can do a lot more with that. One of my kids just waved at me. It's awesome. It's one of the best things when they get to be teenagers and even higher. But that was my 18-year-old. She just came to my lake to swim. It's just so great. You know what I mean? This is the time where you love summers. When they're little, it's so difficult, right? But
Yeah,
when they get to be so independent and they drop in to say hello, to swim, or to hang out with you,
so
it's
fun.
it's so great. No, man, I love the fact that you do what you do and you balance it, so effectively. And I think that's the biggest draw that referral partners and other colleagues of ours are why they're drawn to you. And I think that's those are really, you know, um, high value qualities that you want to have, and because it begins a foundation for you to be able to grow. Believe it or not, people think that when especially in your mid to late 40s, people think that you end up like kind of petering out your career, and to some degree, and I believe this wholeheartedly, this is the time where we lean into our career because we have a solid, a solid 10 years of good leadership experience.
Yeah.
The first 10 is kind of, you're cutting your teeth into things, but you have you have a solid 10 to 14 years worth of leadership and business growth that producers want to rely upon.
I was thinking also that, and this, that faith has been a big part of my journey and
Absolutely, yeah.
my growth. I have social anxiety. I like to bring that up because there's a lot of people that may suffer with that, regular anxiety, social anxiety. And I've had to lean into my faith, and I am grateful for, learning to have self-confidence through, my faith and my foundation there. But it's interesting, the people that God's put in my life and some of the agents that I've had the privilege of working with that have maintained strong partnerships with me for 10 years or more. Marilyn Rosa, Samuel Ham, Yvonne Toro, and we share that integrity, that work ethic, and that care for our clients. And so a lot of that does, I attribute to my faith.
I love that. And it's great to be at a place in your career where you feel you can share that. You can share that. You can sort of connect with borrowers and connect with realtors on a more meaningful level. And there's
Absolutely.
almost no better way of doing that than sharing, the common, faith that you have with them, especially at a time, I've been, I used to have a branch in Texas, for instance, and they used to pray over the pipeline. They would pray with their borrowers, before they found the home that they wanted to, that sort of God had in store for them, but they didn't know it. So it was kind of like, put your anxieties aside.
Yeah.
This house is already known. It hasn't been revealed to you just yet. And it just helps them sort of just guide them through a process, which otherwise can be really scary.
Yeah, it definitely has a different flow and a different vibe than those other relationships where, it's like, we know the offer's accepted, the house is yours, it was meant to be. And, I've met so many wonderful believers that are, that were clients that are now even friends. So that's been a great. I like to point that out because I have to give all the glory. Going from where I was and who I was to where I am now, it's unrecognizable.
Well,
So
that's great. Well, look, I love that. I don't think there's a better place to stop. I'd love to have you back. I'd love to, keep in touch with how to keep track of, milestones that are coming up in your career and or other production milestones that you achieve. I'd love to report back on that progress. That way we can determine kind of what it was that got you there. So I'd love it.
coming up.
When am I coming up? Or
Oh no, well, we have a big milestone coming up, so we should.
That's right.
Connect soon.
100% right. So I look forward to connecting with you again. Thanks for joining us on the show. And this is a wrap on the Peak Performance Project. Thank you, Janine.
Thanks for having me.